Hey guys, Serendi here. Here is part 2 of What If Issei Went Back in Time. Hit like and subscribe, and also don't forget to check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 14, Volume 2, Life 1. I blasted my way through the guards attacking me after my timer for balance breaker ended and decided that there wasn't much reason to be quiet or careful anymore. I heard screaming coming from downstairs and got down to the ground and punched a hole through the wooden floorboards. I had a nice hole down to the underground part of the chapel, and I looked through to find that no one was there, so I ripped out the floor, dropping chunks of wood downstairs before jumping down. I all but ripped the door out of the way and exited the room before finding myself in a large room with table and little cots along the edges. There were exorcists harassing the children, and I created dragon shots in both my hands before launching them at the exorcists. Who are you? Asked one of the children, frightened. I'm a friend. I'm here to get you all out of here before Valper gives the order to kill you, I said seriously. The kids' faces seemed to go pale, and I knocked out another exorcist. But I know that we all failed to wield Excalibur, but to kill us? Are you serious? Said another kid, causing me to clench my teeth. That bastard, Valper. I can't believe he was actually going to kill all of these kids for just failing at being able to use Excalibur. I saw Valper enter with nearly 10 exorcists, and he gasped when he saw me in my armor. What? Isn't that the armor of the Securudii? Why is the Securudii here? On top of that, how is it that a dragon-slaying sword, such as Ascalon, be used by someone with the power of a dragon? Said Valper, shocked. Valper, if you want to live, then you should let me take these children out of here. If you do, then I won't hurt you, I said seriously. Valper's expression changed to a darker one, and he waved the exorcists forward. Are you kidding me? These kids know a lot about Excalibur and participated in this secret project. I'd rather they be dead than let you have them, said Valper seriously. Attack! I cussed under my breath and launched 2 powerful dragon shots at one of the walls away from the kids. It blew up the wall and created an exit for them, though it filled the room with smoke. Everyone get out of here. I made an exit, so leave, I shouted before re-equipping myself with the Excalibur I picked up and Ascalon. I heard the kids scream and saw them running away, so I launched myself at the exorcists. As I crossed swords with the 2 exorcists, I could hear gunshots flying everywhere, and I cussed under my breath. I came here so that Kiba's friends wouldn't have had to suffer the fate they did, but in the end I haven't been able to save them. I defeated one of the exorcists and looked around. Almost half of the kids were dead, and most of them were running out through the hole. I could feel my eyes tearing up at the sight of the dead kids, but I didn't have time to cry for them. I needed to at least make sure Kiba got out of here. I looked around for him and found him on the other side of the room on his knees with a terrified look in his eyes. I saw someone point a gun at him and fire, so I ran over to him. Jet! I was launched over to him and took the shot head on, the bullet bouncing off my armor. Oi! What are you doing? I know this is a scary situation, but you need to get out of here, I shouted. Kiba just sat there, still in shock, and I growled. Before I could say anything, though, an exorcist jumped at us with his light sword, and I sliced into him with Ascalon, causing some blood to splash out onto Kiba. He looked at the blood on him and fainted, causing me to cuss for the millionth time that night. I picked him up and threw his limp body over my shoulder before blasting out of the room. I'm sorry, Kiba. I not only couldn't save your friends, but I'm also taking you away from Rias. Forgive me, my friend. I made it back to Kyoto a little while later, finding the portal back open at the exact time Yasaka said she was going to open it. I released my armor as soon as I got there and collapsed to the ground with Kiba, panting from how tired I was. Issei-kun. Issei-sama, said Azazel and Yasaka respectively. Both ran over to me, and Azazel helped me up while Yasaka checked on Kiba. They both helped me inside, and Kunu dragged Kiba away to clean him up while I rested against the wall. Issei-kun, what happened? Why did you bring Kiba back, and where are the kids? Asked Azazel, receiving a depressed look from me. He frowned and put his hands on my shoulders. It's not your fault. You did what you could. Arara, Issei-sama, what is this that you brought back with you? Said Yasaka in what I assumed was an attempt to distract me. Azazel seemed surprised by the Excalibur fragment that Yasaka was showing off, and he ran to it. Issei-kun, you stole one of the Excalibur fragments? Do you even know which one you stole? Said Azazel, shocked. I shook my head, not really remembering what any of them looked like since most of them looked fairly similar to each other. This is Excalibur rapidly. Did you use this sword after you stole it? If you did, then that means that a wielder of Ascalon really can use an Excalibur. I forgot that only certain people can wield Excalibur. I guess that makes me one of the wielders. This could actually be really good for you. One of the biggest problems about you having a timer for your balance breaker is that you can't fight properly. Even with Ascalon, you aren't fast. If you could master using this Excalibur, you could fight much better outside of balance breaker, explained Azazel. I was shocked. It was true that if I wasn't in balance breaker, I was really slow and weak, so I was generally an easy target. I was learning swordsmanship as a way to deal with that weakness, but if I can also become faster, then I should be able to fight much easier. Kunu came in and called Yasaka to follow her, and I cocked a brow in curiosity but just let them deal with Kiba. After several minutes, though, they came back, even Ophis joining them. Issei-sama, do you mind coming with us? Asked Yasaka, a confused expression on her face. I got up with help from Azazel and we all followed Yasaka. How is Kiba doing? Is something wrong? I asked worriedly. Well, your friend. Was he not a boy when we last saw him? Asked Yasaka, confusing me. What? Of course he was a boy. I'm sure he was a boy, I said, not understanding why she was asking such a thing. She put on a complicated expression and opened the door to the room Kunu had been tending to Kiba. I found him lying on a mat on the ground and looked him over before being surprised by something. What? Kiba not only had small, developing breasts, but he also lacked something from down under. Kunu pulled a small blanket over him, or as I now know as she, to cover her naked body while I gaped. It seems something may have happened with your young friend, said Yasaka, smiling awkwardly. No, I see, just brought the wrong one, said Ophis bluntly. Brought the wrong one. You can say that again. Chapter 15, Volume 2, Life 2. A few months later. Some time has passed since I failed to save Kiba's friends during the Holy Sword Project massacre. Despite failing, though, I was nicknamed the Red Liberator Dragon by the church in honor for stopping the terrible experiments on the children. I don't really think I deserve such a nickname after how I failed, but Drake has been assuring me time and time again that there was only so much I could have done. It doesn't make me feel any better about it, though. Oh, I also found out that Kiba had safely returned to Rias Peerage from Aquino. She had heard about what happened and wanted to make sure I was okay. Well, anyways, I don't have much time to worry about such things, though, as I am currently on an important mission. I'm currently in Romania. Azazel told me all about Gasper and how he and Rias met. He also told me about someone who was close to Gasper before they were separated, and now I am going to try and help her. I don't want to fail at helping my friends, so I've worked very hard to prepare for this. Ugh. This fog is so difficult to see through, I said, annoyed that my vision was so obscured. I could barely see my hand right in front of me. Don't you have the special glasses Azazel gave you? Said Drake, causing me to grin. I forgot that he had given me special glasses to help me see better. I slipped on the glasses and the foggy vision was instantly replaced with a relatively clear vision. I could see dark, dead trees surrounding me and found myself a bit lost. Azazel said he was going to teleport me a distance away from the Teeps faction's location since it would be dangerous to just waltz in, but I wasn't really sure where I was. As I looked around, I heard a tree branch break and spun around, ready to attack whoever was there. I froze, though, when I saw someone familiar. Is that Gasper? I asked myself as I saw a younger version of Gasper running while dragging along a blonde Bishujo. The Bishujo was clearly a vampire from her red eyes, pale skin, and barely visible fangs. Her platinum hair was flowing behind her and she looked a little older than me. I watched them run after sliding behind a tree and saw the girl trip on one of the roots of the dead trees. She fell down and released Gasper's hand and I squinted at her, seeing that her ankle was stretched a bit too much in a direction it shouldn't have been. I don't think she broke it, but she wouldn't be able to walk on it after this. Valerie, shouted Gasper after turning back to her. So her name was Valerie? She must be the good friend Azazel was talking about. Valerie, get up, we're almost at the bridge. If we can cross it, then they won't be able to catch up to us. Gasper began to pull at her hand to try and help her up, but Valerie hissed in pain when she tried to put any weight on her messed up ankle. She looked at Gasper with sad eyes and put a hand to his face. Gasper, you have to go without me. I can't run anymore, said Valerie seriously. No, I don't want to leave you, Valerie. I don't know if I could make it out without you, shouted Gasper, his eyes filling with tears. Valerie looked at him with pleading eyes and mouthed something I didn't quite catch. No, I won't leave you. Run, run, Gasper, run. Do it for me. Whether or not I live doesn't matter if you do. So go and live, Gasper, shouted Valerie. Gasper looked at her with wide eyes, tears streaming down his face, and he tightly gripped her hand before letting it go and running away, shouting out Araya as he did so. Once Gasper was far enough away, I could see Valerie smile sadly in his direction. You're such a good boy, Gasper. I'm sorry I won't be able to be there for you anymore. Don't worry, Gasper. I'll be sure to reunite you and Valerie someday. That took a lot of courage, sending him away while you remained behind, I said, finally making myself known. Valerie tensed when she saw me and crawled back a bit, fear in her red eyes. Are you one of those vampire hunters? She asked, confusing me. I cocked a brow at her in confusion and she pointed at my waist. I forgot I was wearing my exorcist equipment in case I needed to fight. No, I just have this to protect myself in case I got attacked. Don't worry, I don't plan to hurt you. In fact, Gasper would be mad at me if I did, I said, confusing her. I panicked a bit as I might have been revealing a bit too much and moved on. Anyways, I'm actually here to rescue you. I heard about you and Gasper being around here and wanted to save you. Don't worry about Gasper, he'll be in good hands. Huh? You heard about us? Then why would you want to save me? Aside from being the daughter of a vampire lord and being a half-breed, I'm ostracized by both humans and vampires alike, said Valerie, sadly. I frowned at the sad face she had put on and walked over to her before placing a hand on her shoulder. None of that matters to me. You're a good person, you proved that by what you did for Gasper. I always want to protect those with a kind heart, I said seriously. She blushed a bit at what I said and turned away, muttering out things like, "We've had such a hard life," and "Everyone always hated us." I smiled at her and squeezed her shoulder a bit to get her attention again. "Why don't I bring you back with me, so that you can have a life where you are loved?" Valerie stared at me in disbelief and I removed my hand from her shoulder before putting it out in front of me. She looked down at my hand and then up at my face. "Will Gasper really be going to a good home?" she asked, a bit suspiciously. I nodded and she smiled, showing her fangs a bit. She then put her hand in mine and then smiled more brightly. "Please take me with you." I smiled brightly and then helped her up before guiding her to a tree she could lean on for support. "Just give me 1 minute," I said, confusing her. I turned towards the direction Gasper and Valerie had previously been running from and grinned before shouting out, "Did you all hear that? She's coming with me, so you can just go home." Out from the shadows came around 10 vampires, all cloaked in black. "A human," hissed one of the vampires. "What are you doing here?" hissed another. "Give us the girl and we might let you leave," said another. "Didn't you hear? She wants to come with me and, since you all are probably just going to kill her, she would be better off just leaving," I said, still smiling. "Better off? Who cares about her happiness? She's just an idiotic female half-breed who dishonored her house by running away," said one of the vampires, causing my smile to darken significantly. I saw a couple vampires back away from seeing my face darken in such a way, and the vampire who had said that frowned at me. "Excuse me, but who do you think you are saying such a thing about such a nice girl? Who cares about her happiness? What would you do if I said that I do?" I asked venomously. The vampires all glared at me and hissed before moving into a battle stance. "Then we'll just kill you and then no one will care about her happiness," said one of the vampires. They all leapt at me and I quickly grabbed my exorcist guns, releasing my boosted gear at the same time. Boost! Boost! I increased the power of both my guns and began to fire at parts of their bodies, putting a couple out of commission. 4 vampires continued at me directly while 3 more moved around to my sides. I holstered my guns and pulled out Ascalon and Excalibur rapidly, the latter increasing my speed, and sliced at the 4 vampires in front of me, severely injuring them. The final 4 vampires stopped when they saw what I did to their comrades and stared at me with wide eyes. "He has 2 holy swords?" hissed one of the vampires. "And powerful ones at that," hissed another. "Take your injured and tend to them before I do something I'm going to regret," I said coldly, causing the 4 vampires to stagger backwards. I watched them pick up their injured and pull them away from me, fearful that I may carry out my words. Once they were far enough, I sheathed Ascalon and pulled out a wooden stick with many symbols on it before snapping it in half and tossing it away. A large magic circle appeared where I tossed it and I turned to Valerie. "We can escape through this. Come on." I lent Valerie my shoulder and we too entered the portal, finally leaving the ugly landscape of the vampire's home. Chapter 16, Volume 2, Life 3. Valerie and I exited the magic circle inside of Yasaka's home and I found Yumi standing there. "Welcome back, Issei-sama. I hope you weren't in too much trouble," said Yumi sweetly. I grinned at her and helped Valerie to the side so she could sit down. "Is she injured? I can get the first aid box." "Please," I said, causing her to run off. I looked at Valerie's ankle after taking off her shoe and found that it was badly swollen. As I tried to touch it, she hissed, "Is it that bad?" "A little. I can't believe I had done such a thing at such an important time," said Valerie somberly. I muttered out a "don't worry about it," and Yumi came back in with the first aid kit. She began to work on Valerie's ankle, said Vampire, hissing in pain as she did so. "By the way, Valerie, my name is Issei in case you didn't hear before. The one fixing you up is Yumi. I hope you two can get along," I said, smiling. She looked away and nodded before I got up. "I'm going to go and get the master of the house, so please wait here. Okay?" She nodded again and I left to go and get Yasaka, Azazel, and Valley. I brought the three back and found Yumi was just finishing up wrapping Valerie up. "Valerie, this is Yasaka, leader of the Yukai here in Kyoto. This is Azazel, current governor of the Fallen Angels, and Valley, the current Hakuryuku," I said. Also, I forgot to mention that I'm the current Sekurudai." Valerie's mouth was wide open after I introduced everyone, and she remained that way for a moment, not even reacting when I waved my hand in front of her. "Issei!" shouted Kunu after suddenly entering. I turned to her and found her with a few Yukai children who had Ophis hostage. "Please help us punish Ophis. She was cheating at cards again." "Again? What kind of dragon god is this that she needs to cheat against little kids?" "Kunu, we have a guest," scolded Yasaka, causing Kunu to jump. She turned to Valerie and bowed. "Forgive my rudeness. I'm Kunu. Pleased to meet you," said Kunu. "And nice to meet you." "I'm Valerie," said Valerie, receiving a smile from Kunu. Valerie tugged at my pants leg and I bent down to listen to what she was going to say. "Those kids. Are they all different Yukai? And they're getting together so well?" said Valerie in disbelief. "Yeah. I told you, as long as you're a good person, it doesn't matter what you are," I said, smiling brightly at her. She stared at me and her eyes teared up a bit. "Thank you for bringing me here," said Valerie, her voice full of emotion. I smiled and patted her head before she leaned into me before suddenly becoming sleepy from how tired she was. Some time later, I had carried Valerie over to a room to sleep after that, and Azazel had asked me to come with him for something. We had to come to the fallen angels' side of the underworld for something, though he refused to tell me. Valley, Azazel, and I entered a hospital and I became suspicious as to why they had brought me here. "All right, Issei-kun. I need you to be calm and cool. All right?" said Azazel just before opening the door to one of the rooms. I nodded and he opened it completely before I walked in. I found a familiar Bishujo lying on the bed and my eyes widened in surprise. "Kei Kuroka," I said, shocked. "Nye? Valinya. You're back," said Kuroka, her voice sounding weak and a bit slurred. "What happened to her?" I whispered back to Azazel. Well, Valley had found her and ended up having to watch Kuroka kill her master to protect Kaneko. After she had run away, he approached her and told her he could help her, so that she would no longer have to run from the devil government, explained Azazel. I cocked a brow at him in confusion, and he knew what I wanted to know. "How exactly did you help her?" "We removed her evil pieces." What?" I asked in shock. "The Grigori has the technology to do so, but it takes someone with an exceptionally strong will and body to be able to survive the surgery. The reason she was being charged in such a way is because she was a stray devil, right? Well, now she's just a pure Nekashu." "Valley, who is that with you?" I recognize Azazel, but that one there, isn't he the Sekurudai? Asked Kuroka. "Yeah. Don't worry about him, just worry about resting," said Valley as he walked over to her bedside. She seemed happy for his concern and I looked at Azazel again. "Why is she so weak? Even if the surgery was bad, she could just use senjutsu to recover, couldn't she?" I asked. "Well, the problem isn't really her body. The surgery puts the patient under an insane level of pain. She worn to bone mentally. It will take a while before she's back to normal," explained Azazel, causing me to look over at her with pity in my eyes. "I wish I could have been there to help them," I said sadly. "Then Kaneko wouldn't have had to watch her sister do such things." "You know Chiron?" asked Kuroka after hearing me mention sister. I nodded and she seemed to become more energetic. "Is she all right? How is she? The bad devils didn't hurt her, right?" She should be under the custody of Mao Surzex and the Gremory group. She'll be fine, I said reassuringly. She relaxed back into the bed at my words, her eyes tearing up. Thank goodness. If it's those passionate Gremory, then I know she's in a good place, said Kuroka, her eyes beginning to look sleepy. Get some rest, Kuroka. We'll be back again soon, said Valley. The sleepy Nekishu nodded and closed her eyes, a few tears making their way down her cheeks. We all left the room quietly and stood out in the hall to talk. She seems to be recovering a bit faster than expected. It must be the worry for her sister, said Azazel. I nodded at his words. Kuroka was always so worried about his sister, so it wouldn't have been surprising if it affected her in such a way. I then looked over at Valley and remembered how he was speaking to her. His voice sounded gentler than I remember when he had spoken to her before. Hey, rival, you were being a little soft when you were talking to her, I teased, his face becoming a bit somber. I pity her a lot right now. After watching what had happened, I understand Kuroka's pain much more than before. On top of that, I was present for her surgery and saw how much pain she was willing to go through in order to keep the devils off her in hopes of being able to see her sister again, said Valley. I stared at him, surprised he was being so compassionate about one of his comrades. She could use your support, rival. Make sure you give it to her, I said after throwing my arm around his shoulder. Well, you shouldn't count yourself out, Issei. She'll be coming to you a lot, too, now that she knows you know about her sister. She's going to need that relief, said Azazel. I'm almost jealous that my rival can help my comrade more than I can, joked Valley, causing me to laugh awkwardly. I guess that's a bit true. Anyways, why don't we continue your training, Issei, and when Kuroka is feeling better, we can all return to Kyoto, said Azazel, receiving nods from both me and Valley. A few days later, Kuroka had checked out of the hospital, finally feeling well enough to go. Valley and I had been visiting her on and off for those few days, my entire time with her spent talking about Kaneko. She mentioned a few times that she could also smell Kaneko's scent on me, but I wasn't really sure how she could if I hadn't even seen her yet. Maybe it was a Nekishu thing. Anyways, we're now back in Kyoto and I was in my room going through a book that Yasaka gave me about simple magic. Since I'm still learning how to use it, it would be good to read as much as I can on it. Well, I'm trying to learn. Nya, I'm so bored, whined Kuroka as she stretched out on my futon. Then go and play with the kids or Valley. I'm trying to study, I said, annoyed. Ever since we got back, Kuroka had stuck to me like glue. Vala said it's because she's attracted to my personality, but this Bishujo is driving me crazy when I'm trying to study. I suddenly felt glorious Issei press into my back and shivered in delight. Come on now, Mr. Sekurudai-kun. I know you want to play with Nya, said Kuroka, teasingly. I became distracted by her soft and voluptuous Issei, but I managed to nap out of it before shaking my head. Kei Kuroka, I really need to study. I don't have time to play around with your amazing Issei, I said, causing her to pout. How come? She asked before looking down at what I was reading. If you need help with magic, I could always help out. I am really good at it. That would be a great idea, said Azazel after suddenly walking in. Since we don't really have anyone too good at magic, it would be great to have someone to help train him. What's wrong, Sensei? Do you need something? I asked. Usually, Azazel didn't come into my room unless he needed me for something, so I was just assuming. Not really for something. Valley and I just had a little discussion and I thought I'd tell you about it while Valley was training, explained Azazel, catching my attention. I prodded him to go on and he sat down next to the table I was studying at. Well, Issei, you didn't have a familiar back when you were a devil, correct? Well, no. There were a few times I almost got one, but they were too lewd, as the girls had said. I said. Nye? Sekurudai-kun was a devil? Asked Kuroka, confused. It's something we'll explain to you eventually, but it's really complicated, Kuroka, said Azazel. She conceded with that response, though I could tell she wasn't happy about it. Anyways, Valley and I were talking about it, and we thought it would be a good idea if you tried to make a contract with Kuroka here. Huh, I said before pointing at Kuroka. Kuroka, you have a good impression of Issei-kun here, right? Asked Azazel. Yup, he told me lots of stuff about Chiron and he's a really nice guy. I also like messing with him, said Kuroka, smiling brightly before pulling my face into her cleavage. I was surprised by the sudden action but enjoyed her soft épée and nice smell while she and Azazel continued to talk. Then what would you think about becoming his familiar? He's a little perverted, but I think it would be good for you to make a pact, said Azazel, causing to Kuroka to begin thinking. I was still enjoying Kuroka's epee, forgetting about the situation that was going on just behind me. You know, Vala told me you want to bear strong children. If you did it with a heavenly dragon, I'm sure your children would be incredibly strong. Eh? I shouted as I ripped myself from Kuroka's comfortable pillow. What are you talking about, sensei? Having the Sekyudi's babies would be nice. Aside from being part dragon, they would be part heavenly dragon. I like it, said Kuroka excitedly. Eh? What are you agreeing to? I would love to make a master-servant pact with Sekyudi-kun, but I have a couple conditions aside from baby-making. What are they? I asked, tired of trying to deny the conversation the two had had without me. First, I want you to help me reunite with Chiron. It doesn't have to be anytime soon, but I want it to happen whenever you can. Secondly, began Kuroka, holding up the fingers while staring me in the eyes. Please don't treat me like my last master did. I frowned a bit as I looked at her after hearing those words, and I smiled before putting a hand on her head. You'll never have to worry about that second one, and I'll definitely reunite you and your sister. I swear on my life, I said. Kuroka smiled brightly and then hugged my head into her chest. Thank you, Sekyudi-kun. I'll be a good servant and help you lots, said Kuroka happily. I was flustered after being pulled into her chest, but I was also really happy because I got to help Kuroka feel at least a little better. I really have to work hard to make sure my friends can suffer as little as possible. Chapter 17, Volume 2, Life 4. It's been about a month since Kuroka and I made our little pact, it being unofficial until I became a devil. I've spent a majority of that time training with Azazel in power, Yasaka in technique, and Kuroka in magic. For magic, I've mostly been working in fire magic since I'm more familiar with it. I still can't produce anything as powerful as the fire when I used my demonic power, but baby steps, I guess. Currently, I was meditating in the Japanese garden outside of Yasaka's home, it being a good place to meditate since it was practically silent. As I meditated, I could hear the grass rustle and I perked up. I could just barely sense someone's presence a short distance from me, and I pivoted my ear a little as I followed them. I heard what sounded like creaking wood faintly coming from the person, and I threw my hand up after hearing a snap, catching something in my hand. When I opened my eyes, I was gripping an arrow in my hand and I grinned. You were close, Yumi, I praised. A girl who looked similar to Kiba popped out of the bushes across a small pond from me, smiling. Thanks, Issei. It's because you're always participating in my training, said Yumi happily. Yumi, not long after coming back from seeing Kuroka in the hospital, had woken up and she warmed up to me after realizing I had saved her from the cursed chapel, as I've been calling it. I told her what happened to a majority of her friends and she wasn't happy about it, but I told her I knew about one that was alive and well. I told her we'd eventually be able to see him and she got really excited. Not long after, Azazel said something to her and she decided to train alongside me. Azazel suggested she take up a hunter approach and he arranged for Artemis, the Greek archery goddess, to support her as a favor to him. Yumi is working hard on her stealth and even I'm having trouble noticing her presence. Have you been praying to Artemis every night like Azazel-sensei told you? He said that was one of the few things she asked of you, I said, wanting to make sure she was doing everything properly. It wasn't often that you had a major god support you and I didn't want Yumi to miss out. Yes, Issei. I do it every night under the moonlight. I want to be useful to you, so I have to make sure I get everything I can to get stronger, said Yumi happily, though causing me to frown. Why does she want to be useful to me? In fact, I want to be useful to her. And Kiba. I want to reunite them to at least take a little bit of the weight off my close friend's shoulders. Sama, said a voice from behind me, causing me to jump in surprise. I turned around to find Valerie running over to me. Issei-sama, Azazel-sama wants to speak with you. He asked me to get you. All right, Valerie, thanks. Also, you don't have to add Sama to the end of my name. It's a bit too formal for my taste, I said, sheepishly. Having Ravel and Yasaka say that was already a bit much for me, so I'd rather not have another. But Issei-sama is my savior and the one I'm devoted to, so why shouldn't I be formal? Said Valerie, putting a finger to her chin and tilting her head in confusion. You, what are you doing looking at me with such a cute expression? Anyways, let's go and see Sensei, I said, trying to distract myself. I quickly made my way inside, both girls following me closely as we walked. Aside from Yumi being close to me, Valerie also took a shine to me. After I rescued her, she had been trying to help me with things like cooking and cleaning as well as dressing my wounds after training. Yasaka and Azazel didn't go too easy on me because they wanted to help me grow as fast as possible. Ah, Skoen, said Azazel after we came into view. Come on in. I have some news. What is it, Sensei? Is something going on? I asked, worried. Well, there are two things, and I think I'm going to give the good news first. Your little girlfriend is finally here in Japan to stay, said Azazel, surprising me. Rias is here in Japan already? Well, I guess it would make sense since she's a year ahead of me. She should be starting in Kuo soon, meaning I don't have much longer before we meet again. Now, before I lose you in some perverted fantasy, there is some… Well, I guess it could be considered bad news, said Azazel. Catching my attention, I prodded him on and he leaned back. Heaven is having a problem with the system. It's gotten to a point where they've contacted the Grigori for help. What's happening to it? And if something happens to the system, doesn't it affect the sacred gears? I asked, worried. Basically, yes. You won't lose your sacred gears, but a lot of them may be lost because those people that die with them will take it with them. The issue here, though, isn't something that will damage the system or even some kind of malfunction. The system is trying to perform some action that it's never performed before and, from what I know from Michael, shouldn't be, explained Azazel. I stared at him with a confused expression and he locked eyes with me. It's trying to create angels. Huh? I thought, aside from the Brave Saints system, only God from the Bible had that power. I said, confused. That's what we thought. Though God did have a lot of secrets that he kept from even the seraph. He could have added it in and made it so it would activate under certain conditions. What kind of conditions could they be, though? And will the system even be able to create an angel? Said Azazel, visually frustrated. I watched as Azazel struggled with his thoughts and I went into my own thoughts. The fact that this is happening now and didn't happen in the original timeline means it could be reacting to Ophis and my time travel. I mean, that's the only thing that's different, right? What should we do, Azazel? Asked Yasaka worriedly. For now, nothing. Michael has provided the Grigori with information on the system and what it has been doing. They haven't provided much on the system since that would be dangerous to them, but they have provided a lot on the noticeable malfunctions. Since we aren't allowed into that part of heaven, all we can do is theorize and hope for the best. Nobody wants the system to fall since it would cause catastrophic problems in all worlds, heaven, earth, and hell, said Azazel calmly. So we just wait it out. Who knows what could happen, though? I guess there's nothing I could really do, though. I don't understand these kinds of complicated matters, so it's better to leave it to Sensei. What should we do then, Azazel-sama? Should we just continue training? Asked Valerie curiously. Well, I would normally say that, but I think I want Issei to meet Michael, said Azazel, surprising everyone. I think the abnormality with the system could have been caused by Issei and Ophis time traveling, so it might be a good idea to see how he affects the system by going to heaven. Ophis, on the other hand, should remain hidden since I don't think Michael would be too happy to see the dragon god herself. Wouldn't that be bad, though, if you introduced me? Then heaven would think I was a part of your faction and it might start something, I said worriedly. Michael-san can be pretty calm about things from what I remember, but he might not be happy knowing that the Fallen Angel faction has both the Hakuryuku and the Sekiryudai. Thing is, you're not a part of my faction. To prove it, Yasaka will be meeting Michael with me, said Azazel, smirking over at Yasaka. She put on a sour expression and grinned at him. You can be quite sly, Azazel, but I don't have too much of an issue with it as long as it doesn't cause problems for my faction, said Yasaka. He grinned at her and I looked between them. Yasaka didn't seem too happy to be dragged into Azazel's plans, but it doesn't seem like there is a way out for her without causing me trouble. All right, it's settled then, we'll meet with Michael soon, said Azazel as he rose up. Just sit tight and wait for me. I'll let you know as soon as we make contact. Azazel opened up a magic circle and disappeared through it, leaving us to ourselves. Valerie, Yumi, and I decided to go back to training while Yasaka went to prepare some things. This is going to get hectic if it doesn't go well. The next day, yo, said Azazel as he turned the corner into the garden that I usually meditated in. Hey, Sensei, how are things going with Michael-san? I asked, relaxing my posture. Why don't you ask him yourself? Said Azazel as he nonchalantly pointed behind him with his thumb. Right as he was walking away from where he had turned the corner, I saw Michael-san walk around, his holy presence setting me a little on edge. I guess I'm still reacting how I did as a devil. Hello there. Sekiryudai Hayudu Issei, said Michael-san, calmly. I immediately jumped to my feet and bowed, awkwardly, to him. He chuckled at my reaction and tapped my shoulder after coming closer. Relax, child. Azazel told me about some things and we came to discuss. I nodded at him and we all entered and sat down. Currently, Michael-san, Azazel, Yasaka, Valerie, Yumi, Valley, and I were all sitting together at a small table in Yasaka's sitting room. Kunu came in after a couple minutes of awkward silence, carrying a tray of teacups and tea. She gave the tea out and the slight tension in the room seemed to relax a bit. "Well, Hayuda-kun, may I ask about what Azazel has told me?" asked Michael-san, curiously. "What has he told you?" I asked, wondering how much Azazel revealed. "That you came from the future by some means that he is unable to reveal to me, and that he theorizes that your presence in this world could be the cause of the system's misbehavior. Oh, and of course that you are the security and wielder of Ascalon," explained Michael-san. "Ah, sorry if that last part caused you trouble. When I came here I just had Ascalon," I said apologetically. He raised a hand in reassurance and I relaxed a bit. I guess he was okay with giving me the sword. "Well, I did come from the future by a magic I can't really talk about, but I'm not sure what I can help with." "Well, that is true. This has never happened before, so even I am unsure of what to do. Azazel suggested bringing you to heaven might prove that you are the cause of its abnormal behavior, but I fear you getting closer to the system may cause even greater issues," said Michael-san, the worry clear on his face. "But you should also think of the possibility of him going there would fix the problem, Michael-sama," interjected Yasaka. "That's true. Maybe the cause of this could also be the thing that fixes it." Michael-san seemed to think about that possibility as well, and he nodded in understanding before taking a sip of his tea. "In the end it's up to you, Michael, but you might want to act fast. We don't know what waiting could do to the system," said Azazel seriously. Michael seemed to zone out as he thought, and at least a few minutes passed before he looked up to respond. "I will inform the other seraph and will call for you in an hour. I trust that Hayuda-kun will help us," said Michael-san, calmly. "After all, I do not believe Ascalon would choose someone unworthy to assist us." Azazel nodded at him and grinned before Michael-san got up and left through a magic circle. I sat there, nervous. I didn't know what I should do, and I'm worried me going to heaven will just cause more problems. Maybe time traveling wasn't the best idea. "Asakun," said Azazel, catching my attention. "Whatever regrets you're having right now, throw them out. It's too late to do anything about them, so just make the most out of the decision you made." I stared at Azazel for a minute after he said those words and nodded, a grin on my face. He's right. All I can do is hope for the best and try as hard as I can to work hard. Now we just have to wait for Michael-san to return and then everything can begin. Chapter 18, Volume 2, Life 5. Michael-san came back a little bit later than an hour after he left and he brought a small bag. "Hello everyone. Forgive my lateness, but I had a bit of trouble with the other seraphs. Gabriel aside, Uriel and Raphael weren't too happy," said Michael-san. "In order to enter heaven and not cause the system to attack or harass you in any way. The halo's right?" asked Azazel as Michael-san reached into the small bag he came with. Michael-san nodded and pulled out a golden halo from the bag. It glowed brightly and I stared at it, awed. I thought it would be really cool to have a halo, but since I was a devil, I never thought there would be a chance for me to wear one. I hope Asia and Zenobia don't get jealous when I tell them about this. Azazel took the first halo, looking at it with a little bit of disgust, before the rest of us received our own. I placed it over my head and it locked into place, surprising me. "All right, everyone, we will now transport to heaven. We will have to enter through the first heaven, but once there we can transport directly to my office in the sixth heaven. Please remain close to me and do not wander off," said Michael-san. Azazel, Yumi, Valerie, Valley, and I got closer to him, Yasaka wanting to stay behind to watch Kyoto. Michael-san created a large magic circle below all of our feet and we were swallowed up by a bright light. Michael's POV, I transported everyone into the first heaven and waved to the gate guardian before turning to everyone. "All right, now we will be teleporting to my office in the sixth heaven. The seraph should be waiting there so we can discuss the issues with the system," I explained, receiving understanding nods from everyone. I smiled and then activated another magic circle, all of us disappearing in a bright light. When the light faded, we found ourselves in my office and in the back were Uriel and Raphael, still looking displeased with the decision. Gabriel was leaning against my desk and smiled brightly at our return. "Hello, Michael-sama. Glad you've returned. Uriel and Raphael-san have had sour looks since you left," said Gabriel, pouting. I sighed a bit but turned to them. "Calm now, you two. You both conceded to my idea, so please do not hold a grudge," I said in an attempt to appease them. They sighed and nodded before prodding me on. "All right then, I've brought Azazel as well as both heavenly dragons and 2 of the Security's friends. So 5 in total?" Why do I only count 4? Asked Raphael, surprising me. I spun around to look for Hayudakuen but found he was lacking. Azazel had a similar expression on his face and I turned to the other seraph. We need to go to the system. You all must stay here as you will not be allowed in the 7th heaven, I said, flustered. Azazel nodded and I noticed that Yumi and Valerie had worried expressions on their faces. I quickly left the room with Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael, all of us flying towards the gate that led up to the 7th heaven. I opened the gate and we flew through, said gate closing just after we entered. We flew at high speed and could see the system, which was a tremendous mass of golden clouds that glowed especially brightly. We could barely make out something that looked odd. Just what in the world could be happening? Issei POV, I remember seeing the light fade after Michael-san teleported us and I saw a lot of glowing clouds. It was really beautiful, but I only saw it for a moment before the scenery suddenly changed around me. I found myself in a place, by myself, filled with golden clouds and bright shining lights. The sheer amount of holiness in this place made my skin crawl and I became extremely nervous. On top of that, I was alone so I couldn't even ask where I was. In front of me was an especially bright group of clouds and I stared at them. Curiously, I thought that the holiness, like that which was coming from the area around me, would make me nervous, but it kind of soothed me instead. I felt calm, almost like how Asia's twilight healing felt on me. As I was thinking about this, my attention was snatched away when a small ball of light came out of the clouds closest to me. It was slowly making its way towards me, but it was still pretty far. I was thinking about whether or not to get closer to it before feeling a presence behind me. "Hayudakuen!" shouted a familiar voice. I spun around and found Michael-san and 3 unfamiliar figures flying towards me at high speed. They stopped just short of me and Michael-san looked at me, worriedly, before gazing behind me. "Hayudakuen, how did you get here?" I don't know. I remember seeing a beautiful place that looked like heaven after you finished teleporting us and then everything changed into this place, I said, wondering where exactly I was. You lie. One cannot just find themselves in the 7th heaven. The only way you could have been allowed into here is if God himself brought you in, said an important-looking angel with silvery wings. Calm yourself, Uriel. The system has been said to possess the ability to bring things here. After all, most holy artifacts possess their own will, said Michael-san. Uriel stood down after hearing Michael-san's words and he approached me. Hayudakuen, anything strange happened to you since you got here? Asked Michael-san, the worry on his face renewed. No. I did see a weird light come out of those glowing clouds, though, I said, causing Michael-san to tense. Uriel and an angel with fiery wings flew forward to look towards the glowing clouds and I looked at them with a confused expression. Michael-san, what exactly is this place? It makes my skin crawl and Drake has been quiet since I got here. This, my young friend, is the 7th heaven, home of the system and the throne of God. Those glowing clouds are the system itself and this is the holiest place in existence. It's no surprise that you, who was once a devil, would feel uncomfortable, explained Michael-san, surprising me. This was the place where God from the Bible resided. Why am I able to come here? Uriel, Raphael, what do you think the ball of light is? Asked Michael-san seriously. It's an extremely high concentration of holy energy. It reminds me of the energy the Lord would use to conjure new angels, said who I assumed to be Raphael. The system is capable of doing such a thing? I thought it was impossible, said an angel Bishujo from behind us. I tried not to stare at her, considering the situation. Apparently not, Gabriel. Hayudakuen, you said the ball of light appeared when you appeared here. Why not try touching it? Asked Michael-san, surprising me. Are you insane, Michael? We don't know what could happen if they came contact, said Uriel, angrily. But we do not know what will happen otherwise. The system clearly called for Hayudakuen, so there must be a reason. I doubt our Lord would have put something into the system that would cause its own destruction, so all we can do is have faith, said Michael-san calmly. He looked down at me after Uriel calmed down and patted my shoulder. Would you please, Hayudakuen? I stared at him, a little nervous at the fact that I would have to go and touch this weird ball of light, but conceded to him. He directed me towards where the light was still coming from and it continued to float towards us. I moved forward towards it, floating in the empty space, and stopped when I was close enough. It continued to float towards me before floating into my cheek and causing me to clench my chest in pain. Hayudakuen, I heard Michael-san say from behind me. I couldn't hear what he said afterward, though, as I felt an intense pain in my chest. I think this pain was worse than when I absorbed Vala's powers. It wasn't nearly as bad as Samael's poison, but the burning sensation overtook my senses, and I struggled to stay conscious as I fought off the pain. I could see a bright light flow out of my chest, and it encased me, impeding me from being able to see the others. After a few minutes of suffering, I felt the burning sensation begin to die down, and with it the glowing cocoon around me. Finally, the sensation disappeared completely and the light popped off of me, falling off in little sparkles before disappearing. I blinked a few times and then looked around, disoriented. "Michael-san, what just happened?" I asked, confused. Michael-san, along with the others, were staring at me with surprised expressions, and I cocked a brow at them, confused. "What's wrong? Hayuda-kun, turn your head so you can see behind you," said Michael-san, only confusing me more. I did as I was told, and my eyes widened in surprise. On my back were white angel wings with a reddish tint to them. Hey, did I just become an angel? What the hell? I'm supposed to become a devil? I shouted in surprise. What in the world is going on here? Why would the system turn a human into an angel? Said Raphael, just as shocked as I was. I continued to spin around, trying to get a better look at my wings, and Uriel came over to me to inspect them. These wings, they seemed different than a normal angel's wings. Could it be the dragon blood within you? Said Uriel to himself. That was true. They did have a little bit of dragon aura mixed in with the holy aura. Still, what am I going to do? I was turned into an angel, and now I don't know if I can be reincarnated as a devil. Michael-sama, what should we do? You said he is supposed to become a devil, but angels can't become devils unless they fall, right? Asked Gabriel curiously. Well, from what Azazel told me, he will fall quickly, so that isn't much of a problem. The dilemma is more so the fact that the heavenly dragon had an effect on the transformation. You still cannot speak with him, right, Hayuda-kun? Asked Michael-san. I tried to contact Drake again by calling out to him, but he was still silent. What could he be doing at such a crucial time? No, he's still ignoring me. What should I do, Michael-san? Being an angel won't help me since I'm going to become a devil in a couple years, I said worriedly. Don't worry, Hayuda-kun. We'll try and discuss it with Azazel to figure something out. For now, you should put away your wings so that you don't startle everyone. I'm assuming you know how from your experience with your dragon wings? Said Michael-san. I nodded and tucked away the angel wings the same way I hid my dragon wings before following him and the other seraph out of this heaven, leaving only Uriel behind to check the system. What am I going to do? Rias won't be happy when she gets her memories back. Chapter 19, Volume 2, Life 6. We all arrived in the sixth heaven in Michael-san's office. As soon as we arrived, Yumi and Valerie immediately ran over to me. Ayase-sama, Issei, shouted Valerie and Yumi, respectively. Both were looking at me with worried expressions, and I smiled before patting them both on the head. Sorry for making you worry. I'm all right, I said. They continued to look at me, worriedly, but I wasn't able to keep comforting them before Azazel-sensei walked over. Ayase, what happened? How did you get to the seventh heaven? Asked Azazel-sensei, seeming more curious in the second question. I don't really know. One minute I was in a place that looked like outside, and the next I was in a place with a lot of golden clouds. After that, Michael-san and the others found me and brought me back here, I said, obviously leaving out the part about my becoming an angel. I don't want to say it in front of anyone before I talk with sensei about it. Oi, Ayase, said Drake, surprising me. Drake, where have you been? Sorry, but I'm not allowed to speak in that place. None of the Longinus are allowed to. The system tells us not to because it doesn't want us interfering with whoever it brings there. Explained Drake. What's wrong, Hayuda-kun? Has Drake finally begun speaking to you again? Asked Michael-san, probably curious to the fact that I had gone silent. Ah yeah, apparently the Longinus aren't allowed to talk to their hosts while in the seventh heaven. He said the system told them not to, I said, surprising Michael-san. You see, Uriel, I told you the system was sentient, said Michael-san after turning. I turned and found Uriel walking in just as Michael-san had been talking. Yes, forgive me for not believing you. Also, the system has finally stabilized. It seems the dragon boy truly was the cause of the anomaly, said Uriel while staring at me. Gabriel, could you do me a favor and bring the rest of them back? I need to speak with Hayuda-kun and Azazel. Just some last-minute discussions about the system, said Michael-san, receiving a nod from Gabriel. Come everyone. I'll take you back with my magic circle, said Gabriel happily. I plan to stay. If it has to do with both Azazel and my rival, I have no reason to be left in the dark. said Valley nonchalantly, receiving an understanding nod from Michael-san. Yumi, Valerie, I'll see you two back home. Try not to worry too much, I said calmly. Both of them looked at me worriedly, but nodded in understanding before walking over to Gabriel, who transported all of them away. So what is it, Issei? Don't tell me you did something stupid like try and grope Gabriel, said Azazel-sensei. Sensei, I haven't had a chance to even try that, I said, groping the air as I thought about such a thing. Please don't tease him like that, Azazel, especially not after what happened, said Michael-san, causing Azazel-sensei to put on a confused expression. Apparently I've become an angel, I said. I don't think I've ever seen either Sensei or Valley with such surprised expressions. Sensei walked up to me and placed his hands on both my shoulders, staring me in the eye. How? How did you become an angel? Only God had the power to do that, said Azazel-sensei, shocked. Well, Hayate-kun caused some kind of anomaly with the system, and it may have unlocked a secret function to be able to create angels, but the surprising part was that he has changed into an angel instead of making one by itself or reincarnating him. Apparently his dragon blood also had some effect, but we aren't quite sure. Hayate-kun, why not asking Drake and see if he knows? Said Michael-san. I forgot I can ask Drake about it now. I nodded to Michael-san and asked Drake about it. Well, I do feel a lot more power from inside of you. It's strange, though. You were having perverted thoughts a moment ago, and you didn't seem like you were falling even a little bit. Isn't that strange? Asked Drake. That's true. I had those perverted thoughts about Gabriel, but my halo didn't flash like it does for Irina, I said aloud, causing Michael-san to look at me with a confused expression. He seemed like he was about to ask, but must have thought it would be bad to know too much about the future. I want to research this. His dragon blood could have fused with the angel blood, making it differ in properties, explained Azazel-sensei, confusing me a little bit. Can you take out your wings for a second? I nodded and released my angel wings before glancing back at them. They looked so weird to me. I'm not used to having feathers. All my other wings are bare. Now, think about making love to that master of yours. Think about her bountiful chest, those voluptuous thighs, that curvy figure, said Azazel, my mouth drooling the more he described Rias. I love thinking about her body. I want to take her virginity for myself. Look at that perverted face, Michael. He should be falling right now and his wings aren't even flickering. Really, this kid might be as powerful as God if he gets any new powers, said Azazel, laughing to himself. Seems I'll have to get stronger again, rival. I can't have you catching up, said Valley, grinning over at me. I grinned back and fist bumped him before storing my wings away. Azazel, why don't you take him back and monitor him? We won't get much with just inspecting him here. If he continues his training, then he will most likely reveal whatever abilities he has manifested, said Michael-san, receiving an understanding nod from Azazel-sensei. It'll probably take a while, so don't expect much, said Azazel-sensei nonchalantly. Michael-san laughed a bit as Sensei placed a hand on my head, and a magic circle formed around all of us. See you. After Azazel-sensei said that, we were all enveloped in a bright light and left heaven. Honestly, though, just what in the world is happening? Rias POV? I said as I relaxed back into my chair. I was currently in my living room in my relatively large apartment here in Japan. I had just gone over some paperwork that father had given me for dealing with my cute servants. Since Akino was entering into Kuo Academy with me, we had to register her for the school, too. Kiba will be joining next year since he is a year younger than us, and Kaneko and my newest servant, Gasper, will be joining the year after Kiba. To be honest, I'm very worried about Gasper since he's so reclusive. I hope he can get along with everyone. It must be hard though since he can't really control his Baylor view very well. Rias, are you alright? Asked Akino after coming into view. Yes, Akino and I were sharing an apartment since neither of us really wanted to live alone. I turned to her when she came in and smiled. Yes, I'm alright, just some more paperwork. Honestly, I think father is trying to drown, I joked, causing Akino to giggle a bit under her breath. Who knows, he might just hope it will make you want to come back home. I'm sure he misses his princess, said Akino, teasingly. I blushed a bit in embarrassment and pouted at her, causing her to giggle more. Anyways, I hope you haven't been slacking off since we got here. You need to prepare for school. It won't be long until we start, I scolded. Akino smiled at me and nodded before leaving to finish getting ready. Within a few minutes, though, Akino rushed back in, startling me. Rias, you might want to see this, said Akino, looking flustered. I hopped to my feet and ran with her to my room to find some reddish smoke flowing out of my nightstand drawer. I immediately realized what it was and all but leapt at the drawer before ripping it open. As soon as I did, a large puff of smoke blasted me in the face, throwing me into a fit of coughs, and I reached in to pull out a small pouch. I ran back into the living room, Aquino following closely behind, and dumped the contents of the bag on the table. What fell out were 8 steaming pawn pieces, for glowing a bright crimson and the other 3 a dull red. When I tried touching one, I was forced to rip my hand back from how hot they were and I began panicking. It had been a long time since my pawns last acted strangely, but it hasn't been this strange since the first time years ago. As I was thinking about what I should do and panicking, I felt Aquino tap my shoulder and my head snapped back to look at her. "Rias, look, isn't one of the pieces acting more strangely than the others?" asked Aquino, causing my eyes to widen. I looked at the pieces again and found one to be acting different than the others. The glow was pulsating, going from the dull red of its companions to a crimson color. After a couple of minutes of this, the piece finally stopped on crimson and all the pieces stopped steaming before releasing a little bit of red lightning to connect each other. After they had all connected, everything suddenly ceased. The lightning, the intense glowing, the wave of energy coming off of them. They were all back to the soft glow, though now there were 5 crimson pieces instead of 3. After several minutes of processing what had just occurred, I realized that one of my pawn pieces had just changed into a mutation piece before my eyes. I was shocked but calmed down enough to activate a magic circle next to my ear. "Oni-sama," I said after I heard him say yes. "Ah, Ryutan, is everything going well in Japan? I hope father isn't working you too hard," said Oni-sama, calmly. "Everything is going all right, Oni-sama, but something just happened. One of my pawn pieces just transformed into a mutation piece," I said, frantically. The line was silent for a moment and I was about to ask Oni-sama if he was still there when I heard him take a deep breath. "I'll contact Ajuka. He should be at your apartment soon, so please wait for him," said Oni-sama, surprising me. Wait, Oni-sama. I can't just make Ajuka-sama drop everything to look at my pieces. I could just go over there and meet with him," I said. "Don't worry about it, Rias," said Oni-sama seriously. "Ajuka said to let him know if anything happened to the pieces, as it could be serious. Just relax and keep an eye on the pieces." I muttered out an "okay" to him and Oni-sama and I said our goodbyes before I closed the communication magic circle. "Ajuka-sama is coming?" asked Aquino, having heard some of my conversation. I nodded and she immediately began tidying up around me as well as opening a window to let the smoke or steam or whatever it was out. Ajuka-sama arrived at my apartment within an hour after I hung up with Oni-sama. He came in by magic circle, startling Aquino and I as we hadn't been expecting it to appear inside the apartment. "Hello there, Rias. Surzex told me you had something enters dash," said Ajuka-sama before noticing my pawn pieces on the table. He quickly walked over and sat on the couch opposite mine before looking at the pieces closely. "Amazing to think another mutated. Just what is the owner? What could be going on with them? It must be something important for a piece to have mutated, right?" I asked worriedly. "It means that he has either gained some power or increased his strength beyond that which the pieces can handle. One mutated in order to compensate for that, which is exactly what would have happened had the pieces been inside his body. To think that more pieces mutating are necessary to deal with his power. I don't think any pawn has ever had more than half their pieces mutate. Rias, expect a pawn whose power will exceed that of any of your other pieces. He truly does have the potential for Mao class," said Ajuka-sama, looking at my pieces with interest. I remember him saying that once a long time ago and it still surprises me. Just who is my pawn? Chapter 20, Volume 2, Life 7. Issei POV. Couple days later. "All right, Issei, have you been able to concentrate light into your hands?" asked Azazel-sensei as he watched me. We were currently outside in a garden that Azazel created in the dimensional gap, like the forest we had been in before, while I was trying to figure out how to use my angel powers. We ended up revealing everything to Yasaka-san, Ophis, Valerie, and Yumi yesterday, and Azazel-sensei has been trying to help me concentrate on my new powers. NGH. I groaned as I gritted my teeth and tried to concentrate light between my hands. I relaxed my body after a moment, panting a bit, and sighed. I don't get it. I know how to concentrate energy from my devil training, but I can't get the light to manifest. What am I doing wrong? I see, light doesn't manifest the same way devil energy does. The energy you draw out as a devil is based more on the power of your imagination and desire. Light is based off of your faith. Even fallen angels have faith, though it's not in God. For example, my faith is in endless desire for knowledge. I have undying faith that that desire will never fade, and that's why I'm so powerful. You should find something you have undying faith for and use that to utilize your power, explained Azazel-sensei. I nodded and began to think. Aside from faith in my eternal love of Issei and the bodies of the women I love, it would be the faith that I will always protect those that I care about. Considering this is a power based on holiness, I should probably use the less perverted faith. Now that I had a faith I could focus on, I tried to draw out power from it. I focused on forming a small ball of light in my hand and, after a few seconds, a dot of light formed in my palm. I knew I was doing something right and continued focusing. After another moment, the dot suddenly grew into a ball and Azazel-sensei grinned at me. Now, launch it like a dragon shot, commanded Azazel-sensei. I did as instructed and blasted the shot away. It flew into a nearby hill and exploded with such power that I was startled. I hopped back a bit and stared at the explosion until it and the dust dissipated. There was a large crater where the shot had landed and I whistled in surprise. It wasn't anywhere near as powerful as my dragon shots, but that was pretty powerful for a regular human like me. Well, angel now, I guess. Impressive, Issei. Seems you're faster at this than I thought. Okay, sensei, so I can create light, but what can I do with that? I mean, it's effective against other devils and vampires and stuff like that, but what should I do with it? I asked curiously. I mean, aside from the light properties, it wasn't doing much different than what I could do with a dragon shot. To be honest, I've probably been thinking exactly what you just thought since you got your powers. Sadly, angels' powers aren't anywhere near as versatile as devils. I think that there are only a few who actually have some versatility. That's why I thought of something interesting. Do you remember what we all were talking about before? About the power of ki? Asked Azazel-sensei. I stared at him, a bit confused as I thought. Well, I'm not able to use it was a bit part, meaning I won't be able to learn things like senjutsu. I don't remember much else about that, sensei. I said, not sure where Azazel-sensei was leading me. Correction, you weren't able to use it, said Azazel-sensei, confusing me even more. He must have seen how confused I was, as he just continued on. Well, the only ones who can use ki are yokai, 2 or 3 breeds of dragon, a few other humans who were born pretty damn special, and angels. And I'm an angel now, which means dash. I began. You can use ki now. Or at least you should have at least a weak ki network. That can be strengthened up with training. You won't be able to use senjutsu as strong as Kaneko and Kuroka without the boosted gear. But with it you can be pretty damn powerful, explained Azazel-sensei. I became very excited by this news and immediately began looking for Yasaka and Kuroka. If I need to start training up to get my ki network or whatever stronger, then I need to start SAP. Sensei must have known who I was looking for because he didn't ask. I ran into the sitting room to find Yasaka-san and Kuroka telling stories while sipping tea. They were a bit surprised by my entrance, but that didn't stop Kuroka from immediately hugging me from behind. Nya, why is Sekirude-kun running around so excitedly? Asked Kuroka, seductively, as she pressed her glorious epee to my back. I had to focus hard so that I didn't forget why I had run in but managed to speak. Yasaka-san, Kuroka, teach me senjutsu, I said simply. Kuroka stopped trying to seduce me and pulled back and around me so she could look at me with a confused expression, as did Yasaka-san. Issei-sama, I have explained to you before that you need a ki network in order to perform senjutsu. As a human, you lack dash, explained Yasaka-san before stopping when she realized something. I grinned at her and her eyes widened a bit in realization. You're an angel now, so you have a ki network. Nya. I didn't even realize that, said Kuroka, surprised. She then tackled me to the ground, surprising me. She shocked me even more when she mounted me and, although I was very happy to feel her soft buttocks on my lap, I didn't understand why she did it so suddenly. Nayo Sekirude-kun, don't get too excited. I'm gonna check how strong your ki network is. If it's weak, then we've got a lot of work to do. I could feel Kuroka using her senjutsu on me, which was very similar in how it felt when Kaneko used it on me, and after a few minutes she hummed in confusion. What is it? Asked Azazel-sensei as he walked in. Well, Sekirude-kun does have a ki network. What's surprising is that it is, how to say, stronger than one would expect. Normally, angels don't have very strong ki networks to begin with, but his is probably half as strong as mine, explained Kuroka. I didn't really get what that meant and looked over to Yasaka-san in hopes of an explanation. Instead, I received a surprised expression. What? I asked, confused. Well, Issei-sama, if your ki network is truly that strong, then you exceed the natural ability of most yokai under my watch. There is probably only a handful of yokai breeds that surpass you in natural ability. I wonder if the fact that your dragon blood altering the angelic traits inside also affected your ki network, said Yasaka-san, trailing off in thought. Certainly plausible. So what should he start with is the question. I'm not an expert on ki and senjutsu training, so you two need to take the reins on this, said Azazel-sensei. Huh. I guess he really doesn't know everything like he seems to boast. Yeah, well, for one thing, he needs to learn how to control it and his tuki. If he can't gain full control over it, it could run amok and kill him. Even the most skilled senjutsu users have had to deal with this. Ki is unpredictable if he can't force it to his will, explained Kuroka. Okay, but how do I do that? I asked, still confused. It would probably be around a year before you could get good at manipulating your ki, Issei-sama. This isn't something you can rush because it isn't like demonic, dragon, or angelic power. Ki is the natural energy around us, and you could say it almost as a will of its own. If you don't take time to bend it to your will, you won't be able to grasp it. We should begin training immediately, but I believe Kuroka would be better help on this than I would. After all, it's been millennia since I've done this training, so I'm rusty when it comes to that topic. Better to get a fresh mind, suggested Yasaka-san. Her explanation lost me a little bit, but I got the gist of it. Ki is a wild energy, so I needed to learn how to control it. Let's start training now, said Kuroka, a dark smile on her face. I don't think I liked where that was going. Chapter 21. Volume 2, Life 8. Issei POV. Training in that first training camp after I became a devil, difficult. Training to properly control Triana, extremely difficult. Training to learn how to use ki, deadly difficult. Honestly, the first two were a piece of cake compared to ki training. I spent my first month on ki training with having Kuroka sit on my back and constantly aggravating my pressure points or whatever which was supposed to excite my ki. This training was to help me learn how to stop my ki from running amok. Kuroka ended up having to forcefully stop my ki's rampage a couple of times, and every time my ki got excited, I could feel a burning sensation all over my body, like someone was stabbing me with burning hot needles all over. The pain was barely manageable half the time, and the pain helped me pick up controlling my ki faster than normal. It was a bit strange for me since I've never really controlled my powers. Triana came from me working with my past senpai to get beyond Juggernaut Drive. My boosted gears powers all started when I started working together with Drake. This power didn't really have anyone linked to it, though, so it was kinda me just willing it to stop when I told it to. Kuroka said I would get used to it eventually and the task would end up being unconscious by the time I got really good. She said I'd probably be able to control it as naturally as Serorg can after a few years of intense training. Though she did say that Tuki is a little different than normal ki. Apparently I'm training both at the same time though, so she said it's not something to worry about for now. By my second month of training, I could stop my ki almost every time she excited it. We continued to do that part of the training, but much less frequently since she needed time to start teaching me the basics of ki. It didn't take long for her to see I wasn't getting it. I'm more of a visual and practical learner, to be honest. She instead decided to start teaching me the most basic senjutsu, physical reinforcement. Physical reinforcement is basically like turning my skin into flexible armor. She said that to do it, I just need to push my ki into the skin and make it stable or something like that. She showed me her doing it and I saw the effects when I took a bat and hit her as hard as I could. The bat shattered on her skin and she wasn't even scratched. I probably tried doing that 1,000 times, but I wasn't getting it. That was when Sensei came into play. Issei, you need to do it naturally like you always do. Don't focus so hard. Just think hard about how you want your skin to be as hard as your armor usually is. Your ki should just follow your instructions since you've been imposing your will onto it, explained Azazel-sensei, nonchalantly. I looked over to him thinking his explanation was a bit too simple compared to what Kuroka was teaching me, but I tried it, and when Kuroka hit me, as she had been, I didn't feel any pain. There wasn't even a bruise. She grinned at me and I pumped my fist in the air, excited, before she kicked me in the gut. Felt that one. It's good that you're giving him advice, Azazel, but don't make it sound so easy. Look what happened when he lost his concentration for just a second, said Kuroka mockingly. Sensei just rolled his eyes at her and sipped some of his tea. After getting it for the first time and knowing how it felt, I started picking it up faster. Sensei was right when he said I was kind of natural at picking up fighting techniques. By the time the second month was over, I could use that defense technique perfectly. It was like phasing on my armor whenever I needed to. The third month of training was kind of interesting and had lots of eventful things happen. Firstly, by mid-month I was almost totally controlling my ki subconsciously. She thinks it was because I was learning how to use the ki instead of just suppressing it, but I don't really get how ki works half the time. The second thing to happen was a surprise visit from Akino. She was pretty flustered at that time. The day that Akino came, I was in the garden practicing my body hardening, as Azazel-sensei called it, when I felt a familiar magic nearby. I snapped out of my training and looked over to find a purple portal with the Gremory insignia on it. After a second, Akino popped out and I smiled brightly while getting up. My happiness was completely swept away, though, when Akino's face registered in my mind. She had a deep-set frown, worry in her eyes. "Akino? What's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked seriously. "Had something happened to Rias and the others?" "Nothing happened to the others," said Akino as she drifted towards me. She hugged me and then looked me over as if she thought something was wrong with me. "What happened, Issei? To you? Something big happened, right?" I wanted to come sooner, but I couldn't just slip away from Rias without a good explanation. "I've been so worried that something bad happened to you. I mean, I got a new power not long ago, but nothing bad, no." "Why would you think that? Actually, how did you even know?" I asked, seriously confused. I doubt that good-natured Michael-san would have let any of my angelification come out, so how would she know? "A few months ago, one of your pieces turned into a mutation piece. Ajuka-sama was saying how that only happens if something happens to you. Like how you unlocking your Triana and getting the dividing gear mutated some of your pieces. I thought something serious had happened to you, like getting a power in a big battle or something," explained Akino. "So she was worried because of that, huh?" "Wait, what? What do you mean my pieces? I'm not a devil yet, Akino, I can't have pieces," I said, confused by what she said. "That's something I've been trying to piece together, Issei. I've contacted Ajuka-sama secretly a few times and neither of us understands it. Your pawn pieces, the ones Rias has, are still connected to you. She said that one day, probably around the time you came to the past, her pieces reacted with your soul and became yours, for even mutated just like your pieces were before. Now, though, another mutated to compensate for whatever crazy power you have now," explained Akino, clearing up a lot of my confusion. "So just like Ascalon was still bound to me, so were my pieces. It's kind of strange, to be honest." "That's quite interesting. Seems even that genius Ajuka doesn't even know how his creation works," said a voice from behind, surprising me. I turned to find Azazel-sensei looking deep in thought. "I also guess it would make sense. Pieces used to reincarnate someone into a devil would have to change a bit in order to handle this new addition. Amazing, though, that they accounted for that even though they're separate from your body." "What new power have you gotten now, Issei? Honestly, if you get any stronger I might not be able to keep away," said Akino, looking at me with a bit of a seductive look. "Well, I'm not sure how you'll react to it. I guess it would be as bad since it's in your blood," I said, causing Akino to give me a confused look. I released my angel wings and looked at her expression, smiling a bit as I saw her eyes widen in surprise. "WWW what? Are those what I think they are?" shouted Akino, still staring at my angel wings. I put them away and her stare shifted to my eyes. "Lots of stuff happened, but in short, I've become an angel and I'm learning senjutsu right now," I said simply. She stared at me again before rolling her eyes. "Honestly, why am I surprised? If it's to get stronger for us, you'll do anything," said Akino before giving me a short kiss, surprisingly not even trying to extend it. "You have no idea how relieved I am that you're okay." "Akino," I said, looking deeply into her eyes. "I won't die again, I swear. I'll get stronger and stronger so I can protect you all from anything and everything, no matter what." Akino was silent for a moment before smiling brightly at me and pulling me into a hug, my head being pulled down into her much larger breasts than the last time she hugged me like this. "Keep being you, Issei. The next time I'll see you will be in Kuo. Don't keep us waiting too long," said Akino, quietly. I was a bit too entranced by having my face in Akino's cleavage to answer, but I understood what she meant. It was so hard being away from everyone. I missed them all to death, but we'd all be together again soon and things could go back to the way they used to be. After that, Akino left back through the portal and I ended up going back to training with even more passion than before. Her coming gave me a boost and I ended up moving a lot faster than I had been. For the rest of the month, I got regular visits from Valley, now accompanied by Biko, who happily gave me from key training pointers, as well as many visits from Slashdog and Jean for intense training session. The months that followed were sort of a blur. Kuroka taught me a lot of senjutsu, most being either offensive or defensive techniques since it would be a while before I could manipulate my ki to be able to use it for healing like she and Kaneko do. By the end of the year's worth of training, I was a lot stronger and I was that much closer to seeing everyone again. Hoo! I breathed out a steady breath as I stood, shirtless, in the middle of the garden by myself. I had my eyes closed and I was standing with my feet spread apart and my fists clenched close by my sides. I cloaked them in ki, one with 2 ki and the other with a fiery ki that Kuroka taught me how to create. I tensed my body and released out a series of punches in the air, said punches creating small bursts of wind from the impact with the ki. As I was training, I heard a near silent rustle in the grass a few yards away. I already knew who was there, using my ki to sense their presence. Still have a lot of training to do, Yumi. I heard Yumi whine in a cute voice and she stopped trying to mask her presence. Darn it. And I thought I was doing so well, said Yumi in a way that made me feel she was pouting. I grinned a bit and released the ki from my hands before relaxing from my fighting stance. You're doing great. I heard Artemis helped you out since she was happy about how much you've been praying, I said, smiling at her. It was true. The goddess was kind enough to give Yumi a special bow. It was simple on the outside, sleek wooden limbs that curled at the ends and a bowstring made from Artemis hair. The bow was imbued with her powers so it would never break and she could fire arrows as fast as she wanted, even insane speeds like the speed of sound. Sensei also helped her out by asking one of the other Greek gods, whose name I can't remember right now, give her a quiver that generated arrows using the energy inside her. I was a bit skeptical at first since I didn't think Yumi had much to spare, but apparently those bastards at that terrible church did something to her that unlocked her ability to generate holy energy. She could produce quite a lot, so that quiver ended up being really useful. Yeah, so amazing, and I'm so happy she gave it to me. I was praying a lot in hopes that it would help me get a lot stronger, and so far it has. I haven't missed a single shot up to 4 miles from the target. It helps that the eagle eye ability I get from her lets me see it, said Yumi, proudly. I grinned at her and ruffled her hair, receiving a blush from her. You two seem to be getting along well without me, said a voice from off to the side. Hey Valerie Azazel-sensei, I said without turning to them. Oi Yumi, don't be too sad about not being able to sneak up on this one, began Sensei, jabbing a thumb in my direction. He's almost at Barakiel's level in battle prowess. You'd have to be Mao class and up to be able to catch him off guard at this point. I do feel really strong, but I don't think I'm that close to Barakiel's level yet. Maybe after I become a devil again and get Triana back. I wonder how well my body will be able to use Triana now that I'm a lot stronger than I was. I said the last part mostly to myself. At your present level, you could probably handle Triana as well as you handle Balance Breaker, said Drake, surprising me. Ah, Drake, you haven't spoken to me in a month. What's the deal? I asked, a bit annoyed that he's been ignoring me. Ever since my key training started, he's been talking to me less and less, and he always gives me the excuse that he's off talking to Albion about this and that. But I don't believe it. Don't worry about it, partner. I'll tell you about it when you get Triana back, said Drake, cryptically, annoying me. I pouted a bit at the response, but decided to let it be since I had other things to deal with. Issei-sama, I need you to come with me, please. Yasaka-sama said she has something to tell you, said Valerie, pouting a bit. I've noticed that these two girls want a lot of my attention. When I give too much to one or the other, then the other usually gets annoyed. I sighed a bit and quickly came up to Valerie before patting her on the head. Come on, don't put on a face like that. It's better when you smile, I said, smiling at her. She gave me a sheepish smile before blushing a bit. Does Sama like my smile? She asked, fidgeting. Yeah, it's really pretty, I said, enthusiastically, just to hear a groan from behind me. I turned to find Yumi leaping at me, her arms wrapping around one of mine and pulling it into her bosom. Issei, that's not fair complimenting Valerie like that, said Yumi, some obvious jealousy in her voice. I wasn't paying much attention though, as I felt her very well-developed breasts around my arm. While I was enjoying the sweet sensation, my head was suddenly tugged downward and I felt the even more amazing sensation of having my head pressed into Valerie's firm but still soft bosom. Issei-sama isn't just yours, Yumi. I'm willing to share him, but it has to be equally. We won't have much time left with just us, so we have to make it count, said Valerie, confusing me a bit, but I was, once again, preoccupied by the amazement of breasts. You're right. We have to make the most before the horde of other girls Issei talks about come. Once they're here, we'll never get to have him to ourselves, said Yumi, sounding like she was going off into thought. Honestly, this guy, he's the type that can get any girl to fall for him. I can't wait to see what kind of kids he has. They'll probably be the strongest ever with who their father and mothers will be, said Azazel-sensei. Ah, I forgot. Yasaka-sama summoned you, said Valerie before releasing my head from her breasts and dragging me along. What? I said in complete shock. Yes, Ria-sama and her household are presently in Kyoto. From what I hear, it seems they are on vacation. I wasn't sure what you wanted to do about it. When I mentioned it to Kuroka, she decided it best to leave since her sister might have sensed her, explained Yasaka-san. It's too early still. I can't see her, not yet at least. We've still got another year before I can meet her or else it might mess things up, I said, worrying about what to do. Relax, Issei. You just need to stay away from her. Here might not be the best since she might come to pay her respects to the famed nine-tailed fox. But it wouldn't be too difficult to stay away, said Azazel-sensei. Sensei was right, I just had to keep away from her. I could probably go down the mountain a bit, train in one of the open areas away from the path that leads up here. I should probably wait until they're on their way before I do though, just in case. Everyone except Yasaka-san and Kunu would have to leave. Hopefully I can pull Ophis from her video games long enough to hide. Yumi and Valerie will come with me and then Sensei will? I said, leaving my sentence open since I didn't know what Sensei wanted to do. I'll go ahead and warn Valley so he doesn't come around as well as Slashdog. Afterward, I'll go back to the Grigori research lab. I've been studying Valerie's body since I might have found something interesting. I'll tell you about it when I know more, said Sensei, making me curious. I decided to leave it for later and he grinned before leaving the room. Oh, what kind of day is today going to be? Chapter 22, Volume 2, Life 9. Rias POV. Wow! Kyoto is so beautiful! I shouted in amazement, running up to a torii gate in front of one of the old shrines. I've been looking forward to this trip so much. Since I heard that the second year's trip was going to be changed from Kyoto to Okinawa, I just had to see Kyoto first. After all, Kyoto is the historical capital of Japan. How could I not come and see it? Rias, don't get lost now. School is on break right now, so there are a lot of tourists, said Akino, still a bit of bitterness in her voice. She was kind of annoyed when I surprised everyone with the trip. I tried to find out why, but she wouldn't tell me. I was kind of worried about it, but since she hadn't say anything outright, I thought it would be all right. Kaneko and Kiba seemed fine with it, too. I know, I'm not going to get so far away from my precious servants. But look, Akino. This shrine is almost 400 years old. Look at the old Japanese architecture. I love Japan. It's always so beautiful, I said, excitedly. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm too obsessed with Japan. It is a very beautiful shrine, Bucho. I'm not sure how the local gods would feel if we got to close, though, said Yudo worriedly. Don't worry about that, Yudo. I spoke to the gods and spirits of various places I wanted us to go to prior. They gave their approval as long as we don't cause any problems for the shrine visitors, I said happily. Of course, I took care of something like that prior to our arrival. What good is seeing the shrine from so far away? Are we going to pay Yasaka-sama? Asked Kaneko before I had a chance to gush over the shrine again. Ah, yes. We have to go soon or she'll be insulted. But, I said hopefully, pointing at the shrine. Yes, Rias, we can finish seeing the shrine first, said Akino, still some bitterness. I ignored the bitterness, though, because of how happy I was to be able to look at the shrine up close. Ah, Kyoto is amazing. We've been going around Kyoto for a couple hours now, slowly making our way towards Yasaka-sama's shrine. We were finally closing in on it before walking up to the torii gate. This is it, Bucho? Asked Yudo, sounding a bit confused. I expected something a bit grander for someone as famous as the nine-tailed fox. Perhaps she is more modest than I believed. I think you'll be a bit surprised, Yudo. Although I've never been here, Father told me about his visit when he visited, I said, winking at Yudo. He cocked a brow in interest at my statement and we walked towards the torii gate before passing through it. As soon as we were through, the scenery in front of us completely changed. The shrine went from being a slightly raised area with a beautifully simple shrine to an enormous mountain, a large staircase making its way all the way up to the top. The top, though, was separated from us by a dense white fog. As we began ascending the stairs, I turned back to glance at my precious servants, finding Kaneko and Yuto with odd expressions on their faces. I giggled to myself and we quickly made our way up to the top. The shrine at the top of the mountain was beautiful and serene, complete with simple garden with small waterfalls. I I couldn't help but love how peaceful the scene was. I, as well as my servants, all stopped to enjoy the sight before a fox girl came out from the front of the house. She came close and gave a short bow before speaking. "Hello, Lady Gremory. My master has been expecting you," said the fox girl in a dainty voice. I smiled at her and nodded before following her into the shrine building. She led us into a rather large sitting room and asked us to make ourselves comfortable while her master came. After a few minutes of silence, a beautiful fox woman came in, closely followed by a young and cute fox girl who looked quite similar to her. "Hello there, Mao's little sister," said Yasaka-sama, a bit condescending. "Well, I am technically below her in status since she is a faction leader." "Hello there, Yasaka-sama. We've come to visit while here in Kyoto," I said, smiling and bowing my head slightly. "Yes, my precious little servants notified me that you came to sightsee. I hope that's the only business you have here. I haven't the desire to deal with any disturbances at the moment," said Yasaka-sama while fanning herself. "Of course, we would never try to inconvenience you. We are here solely to sightsee. Kyoto is, after all, quite a beautiful city," I said, smiling. "Yes, I take quite good care of it. I appreciate you coming to pay respect, and I do ask that you ignore being watched. My yukai do like to keep an eye on outsiders," said Yasaka-sama simply. I nodded in response and she smiled a bit. "Please do say hello to that father and brother of yours, by the way. It's been too long." "Of course," I said as I and my peerage rose up. We bowed and were quietly escorted out by one of her servants. Honestly, I think she was a bit too condescending, but at least now I can enjoy my tour of Kyoto without worry. A few hours later, phew, I sighed in relief after drinking some delicious tea. We had stopped at a small cafe after wandering the city for the last hours, and we needed to take a bit of a break to recover. We ended up looping back near Yasaka-sama's shrine, and we were planning to go to the other side of it to a part of Kyoto we had yet to explore. "Bucho," whispered Yudo after leaning close to me. "Don't you think Akino has been a bit too anxious? She hasn't calmed down since we arrived, and I've been wondering what could be the problem." "I wish I knew, Yudo. Perhaps someone she dislikes is here and she doesn't want to run into them? She refused to talk to me about it several times, so I don't know what to think about it," I whispered back. I was as lost as Yuto when it came to Akino's reactions. She's been very stressed out on this trip, and I'm wondering why. It couldn't be that her father is here in Kyoto, as Oni-sama would never have let me come here if such a high-ranking fallen angel was around. I don't know much about people Akino was friends with before meeting her, though. Maybe it is someone close to her? Before I had much time to think, I felt a strange heat from my pocket. I looked down and gasped before quickly running out of the mildly crowded cafe, probably causing my peerage some surprise. I ran out into one of the nearby alleyways and pulled from my pocket a small pouch, the one where I kept my precious pawn pieces that just love to do as they like. Right now, they were glowing, faintly, and heating up. I fumbled with them a bit as they were already hot enough that it was uncomfortable to hold them. After a moment, Akino, Kiba, and Kaneko appeared in the alley beside me, all wondering what was going on. "What are they doing now, Rias?" asked Akino, first, realizing what was going on. "I don't know. Their reaction is different this time. There's no lightning like before, so it can't be another mutation, but," I said, trailing off in confusion. Before I could think any more, the pieces suddenly flew up out of my hands and circled around me for a moment before shooting up into the air one by one and disappearing somewhere. I could only stand there, gaping, as I wasn't sure what in Mao's name was going on. "Could it be?" said Kiba, trailing off in thought instead of confusion like I was. "What is it, Yudo-kun?" asked Akino, a bit of seriousness in her voice. "Well, the pawn pieces belong to someone, correct?" asked Yudo, receiving nods from Akino and I. "Then, could it be that we are close enough to that someone that they've gone to find him? Of course. It wouldn't be strange to think that the pieces would want to be whole with the person they belong to. Though, the pieces wouldn't actually be able to enter them until you perform the ritual, right, Rias?" asked Akino curiously. "Yes, Ajuka-sama said that I still needed to perform the proper ritual even if they do belong to someone, or else the pieces can't enter his body," I said calmly. "I can still feel the energy from the pieces. We should go after them." "What direction are they heading, Bucho?" asked Kaneko quietly. "Surprisingly, towards Yasaka-sama's shrine. I wonder if she's involved with him," I said before exiting the alley and running towards the shrine. My peerage followed closely behind, but I was too focused and nervous. Could I finally meet him after all this time? After 9 long years? The anticipation of meeting him is killing me. Issei POV. I really hope she doesn't try to come back, I said to myself. Ophis, Yumi, Valerie, and I were all sitting on a small overhang some distance down Yasaka-san's mountain. We were on the side opposite of where the stairs were just in case, but Yasaka-san said it was unlikely that Rias and the others would come back unless something provoked them. We had actually been in a different dimension since Azazel-sensei left and had been waiting until after Rias had visited so as not to accidentally run into them, but I wondered if we should have just stayed there. I really don't want to mess anything up with the timeline aside from, what I've done so far. But all of that doesn't really do much to affect my relationship with Rias and the others. I hope. Issei, there might be a problem, said Ophis, surprisingly not playing her Game Boy for once. What is it, Ophis? Is someone dangerous coming? I asked, tensed. Not dangerous. I sense something flying over here as well as the others coming back towards the mountain, said Ophis, surprising me. They're what? I shouted in disbelief. What could possibly bring them back here? Actually, a better question is, what is flying over here that is bringing them back? My question was answered after a few seconds when I heard a whoosh from nearby. I turned to the side to see what looked like glowing chess pieces flying towards me. I staggered and they circled around me before pulsating. What in the dash? I asked confused. Yumi and Valerie tensed, prepared to fight, but I waved them off when I realized what was circling me. They were pawn pieces, probably mine to be honest. Shit, I would have never thought my pawn pieces would start looking for me. What should we do, Issei-sama? Should we return to the other dimension? Asked Valerie, worried. No, that wouldn't work now. Rias is smart. She would know what my pieces leaving meant. She knows I'm here and would probably think Yasaka-san was hiding me when she can't find me, I said, panicking a bit. What the hell do I do? Why not give the pieces back while giving a message to see her in a year? Your master isn't unreasonable. She can wait, suggested Drake in response to my panicking. You're a genius, partner. Rias would agree if it was only to wait another year. And another year is all I need to put everything on track. I need one of you to take my pieces to them and give them a message for me. Okay? I asked, both girls nodding. Which of us should go, Issei? Asked Yumi, curiously. I think Valerie should go. If Yumi goes then Kiba might recognize you. Rias and the others won't know you, Valerie, but you should still go cloaked and try not to reveal that you're a vampire. I want to limit what Rias knows so she doesn't get any wrong ideas, I said after thinking about it. Valerie nodded and pulled on one of the cloaks we had brought in case we needed to conceal ourselves. What should I say, Issei-sama? Asked Valerie as I began to pick my pieces from midair. Something like, your future pawn is not ready to see you, but he will come to you after a year. That should keep her waiting, I said before flinching. Crap, they're already that close? You won't be able to stop them in time before they start climbing the mountain to look for me. Why not flare your aura to surprise them? Suggested Ophis from off to the side. I looked at her a bit confused and she tilted her head to the side a bit. Your aura is already at a point where it would cause most high-class devils stop in their tracks and become wary. If you did that, they might take it as a sign that they are unwelcome. That might work actually, I said, surprised. I do remember times where foes much stronger than us made us freeze because of their tremendous aura. Why couldn't I try something similar? Alright, Valerie, go ahead and I'll do what Ophis suggested. Valerie nodded and hopped down from the ledge, using magic circles to make her way down the side of the mountain. I stood in place and took a deep breath before concentrating on the power within me. I let it flare to life and I roared out while feeling my energy spike. I sure hope this works. Rias POV, we're almost there, I said just as we ran through the torii gate to Yasaka-sama's shrine. The energy is coming from the other side of the mountain. They must be on some cliff. I think we can fly now that we're out of sight of the normal people, said Yudo, receiving a nod from me. We released out wings and I kicked off the ground first before feeling an overwhelming surge of power from the other side of the mountain. I forgot to actually fly and I fell back to the ground, landing on my feet. What was that? I said, shocked, before turning back to my peerage. I found Kaneko and Yudo frozen in shock and trembling a bit while Akino was biting her lip with a seductive look in her eye. I turned back and stared at the direction the energy came from. Shocked. Bibi Bucho, said Kaneko, causing me to glance back. That aura, it's that of a dragon's. I remember it when some of the high-class devils sent some of the dragons after Nesama. A dragon? Even so, that aura was incredible. Could it be close to that of a dragon king? I asked, shocked. Before I could think more on it, I felt a presence off to the side and looked over to see a cloaked figure jumping down onto magic circles. I became a bit defensive after seeing her, but as soon as she reached us, she held her hands out. Within her hands were the pawn pieces that had just flown away, and they were all still glowing, though fainter than before. "Hello, Gremory-sama," said the girl in a polite voice. "My master wishes to return these as it is not yet time for him to join you all." "Master? And what do you mean by, it isn't time yet?" I asked, confused. "I call him master because he saved me from death, but that is irrelevant. My master is training to become useful to you when he finally joins you, but until then he wishes to remain hidden. He asks for you to wait just 1 more year," said the girl simply. I tried to take a glance at her face, but she was concealing it well. "1 more year, huh?" I said, mulling over the thought. I was so close to meeting the mysterious person filled my thoughts every time I saw my pawn pieces, but he's asking me for another year? Do I really have to wait longer? "Good things come to those who wait, Rias," said Aquino, sounding a bit smug. "Well, that may be true, but just how much stronger can he get in a year? He's already plenty powerful." "I could tell from his aura blast a moment ago," I said, wondering how this girl would reply. "Compared to a Mao, how well do you think he could fare if he fought, say, Lucifer-sama?" asked the girl, smiling a bit at me. "So he's aiming for Mao level before even joining my peerage? Honestly, who is this man? If he's dead set on reaching Mao level before he meets me, then I can't really do much, can I? Ambition like that doesn't appear often. Even less does ambition with incredible power to back it up come up. I'll let him have 1 more year. If he doesn't show up or contact me by then I'm never going to let him join my peerage," I said, a bit bitter. "I will tell him as soon as I return," said the girl, holding the pawn pieces out to me. I cupped my hands together and she poured them in before bowing to me. "It was very nice to meet you, Gremory-sama. I hope my master can impress you once we all meet again." Before I could say anything else, the girl hopped back onto a magic circle that launched her high in the air and away from where we were. I stared off at her scornfully, and then down at my pieces as I began to slip them into their usual pouch. "What do you want to do, Bucho?" asked Yudo, curiously. "We'll give him a year," as he asked. "I hope he can make a big change from the level he's at now," I said, smiling a bit before walking off. "You better impress me, mystery man."